Join us every Friday on Clubhouse, where we will be talking scrap with industry vets nationwide. All right, well, I'm going to dive right in. Thank you for everyone who is joining us. Basically going to be talking to Adam and Brett. We're going to open up for questions towards the end and pull people up to speak. And really, I want to dive in. This episode's highlighting the family business aspect of the scrap business, which is intertwined. I really want to dive in, and Adam, you can go first. Like, how did your family get into the scrap business?
About in 1938, we were like in the auto parts business. My grandfather had like a one retail place for auto parts, and years later, my father got into it, and he was on the retail end. They had a location in Owego, New York, on the same site that he was like born and raised.
Okay.
Then I got into the business I've been doing it now 30 years. My dad retired about 22, 23 years ago. He retired. And then I started taking over there and then got into the automobile shredding business. So they were like more on the retail automotives, the auto parts side. And then I got more onto the ferrous scrap processing side.
Were they selling new parts, or were they selling, was it like an auto salvage?
It was some new. Kind of like a Napa type setting thing, but some salvage, but mostly newer parts.
Cool. And Brett, how did your family get into the scrap industry?
My grandpa started our business in 1972. So he ran it from 72. He had this little small yard in Nampa, Idaho, and then in Caldwell. And then eventually they consolidated the two into one in Caldwell, which is our original location, which is where my office is now. And he ran it, mostly a real family business, aunts, uncles. My grandma ran the truck scale, and until my dad came into the business as soon as he could walk, as soon as he could participate, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then my dad officially bought my grandfather out in 97, and that was when we partnered with Schnitzer Steel. At the time, Schnitzer Steel had bought 50% of United Metals, and from there, I came into the business, as soon as I could participate, as soon as I could be involved, from the recycling center to run a cutting torch, to run the shear, to, and then I went to school, went to college, Oregon, and came back, and 2004, started working full time.
Awesome. That leads me right into the next question, really. Did either of you feel pressured to get into the business, to keep the family business going, or were you both kind of open to do whatever you wanted?
Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, so no, my father never pressured me at all. I don't even know if he really wanted me to be in the scrap business back then. I was a fine arts major at a small art gallery in New York City. So I had no background. I never really grew up in the scrap business. And then a family member had passed away, and my father had asked me to come help him for a summer when my sister passed away. And, I moved from New York City just thinking I was going to help for a summer. And I ended up staying there. And then a few years later, he retired and just didn't want to do the scrap business anymore.
They sucked you back in.
They definitely sucked me back in without question. 30 years later, I'm still here, but they definitely sucked me back in.
Well, being a fine arts major, what made you want to stay in the scrap business? Like, did you just have a passion for it? Was it just kind of in your blood,
No, I didn't have a passion for it, and I don't think it was really in my blood back then. I mean, it is now, but back when I was younger, I didn't really like the scrap business. Mm-hmm. But when my father had retired, he had retired pretty much cold turkey. I really didn't know what I was doing. I had borrowed a lot of money, and I was pretty much all in, so my plan on leaving the scrap industry I just ended up staying because I had to stay.
I like it. You bet on yourself and looked like it
Yeah,
paid
back
off.
then.
So.
Well, it didn't pay off back then. I mean, I went to prison for a year, so I guess it wasn't the best payoff back then.
Yeah, the long game it paid off.
It paid off, but back then it was a total shit show back then, and it was my own fault. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing, and it was like most of the decisions I made were pretty much epic fails back then.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I got older, I got a little more conservative, a little more methodical. Understand my specialty now is the production end of the business, and after you get the production end down, this isn't the most difficult business to be in if you have the production end, taken care of.
Gotcha. Brett, what about you? Did you feel some pressure to, keep staying in the family?
I'm different in Adam in that regard, in that I always loved the industry. I grew up in the scrap business. I grew up at the yard. I worked Saturdays as a kid, and I was the kid that came to the yard and got all the fucking steelies. So when we played marbles, I'd take them to school and trade them, or go and try and beat people at marbles because I had all the big, heavy shit, the steelies, and I could go there, and I was just kind of I loved being around there. I loved throwing rocks through car windows. We're about to get crushed. I worked in a recycling center at a pretty young age, so I kind of always knew what I was going to do. My dad, at one point, I think I was in high school, and I was like, man, I want to go in the office. And my dad was like, you ain't going to the office. You sure ain't going to the office until you at least go get some education. You can stay outside the recycling center, work outside. You'll always have a job, but you're not coming to the office until you at least go get a little bit smarter. So for me, it was, I always knew what I was going to do. So when I went to school mostly because I wanted to play sports in college. I did that 5 years later. When I came back, there was no ever any hesitation about what I was going to do for me. So so that's why it's easy for me to wake up every day and do it, because I love it. It's kind of always been in my blood.
Gotcha. Well, that's cool. So neither of you had pressure. I'm sure. So Adam, I think I see your posts that you have a daughter. I don't know if you have any sons. And Brett, obviously you have 2 sons, I know. Are you hoping any of those, Adam, your daughter, or Brett, your sons, stay in the industry, or are you open to them just doing whatever they want?
I have 3 daughters.
3 daughters, okay.
One's 10, and the 2 are twins that are 4. The 10-year-old, I think, likes the business, but, I'm not going to force her to be in this. This is a really tough industry.
Mm-hmm.
Only if she really wants to. It's great because I don't have any family in the business. I don't have any brothers or sisters. My dad retired a long time ago, and he's non-active in the business. So it's just me here, so it'd be really nice. And this company it's grown into, in the past 5 years, it's a handful, this company, and it's a lot for one person to do. And I'd love her to join, and I love when she comes here, but right now I'm on my own, and I got a good staff and a great crew here, but just being the only family person in the business makes it tough.
Gotcha. Brett?
My 2 boys, I ask them all the time, like, hey, you guys want to go to work with Dad? You guys want to do this? And they look at me like I just asked them if they wanted to eat a turd. And I'm like, all right, I guess there's not a lot of interest, I'm not going to pressure them. If they don't love it like I loved it, I'm okay with that. I enjoy getting up and doing it, but if they don't, man, I don't want to mess up my kids. I want those kids to go, if they want to play Xbox, or if they want to, play sports, or they want to, go to be a doctor, or just go do something on the marketing side, or whatever in this world, I want them to have a shot at it, and I don't want them to feel pressure to come into the scrap business. It's an interesting business. It's a passion of mine, but I can't tell you what your passion should be. Just like Adam, you at least, if you're a fine arts major, you go taste that, you get to go enjoy it, see if it's something you want to do or you can do. And to me, I want my kids to have that option. If they want to be a fine arts major, I want them to go check it out. I want them to, if that's what you want to do, go do it. I mean, I'm not good at selling businesses. I mean, I don't really, that's not my strong point, but when it comes back down to it, if neither of my kids are interested, I guess at the end of the day, I'll find somebody that wants to come do the dance. So
very good. I think a lot of people I've talked to in the scrap industry, they all have different paths that led them there. I think a lot of people, unless they grew up in it, like you two, or especially you, Brett, where you just knew that's what you wanted to do. But even talking, just taking Mike Foon, for example, like, he is similar to you, Adam. Like, he kind of went off and did his own thing and wasn't really planning on being in the business, but got led back to it. I think I keep hearing that more of a reoccurring theme. Like, people think they don't want it, and then they find their way back, and then they grow to love it, or they always loved it and didn't realize it. And then people like myself, outside of the industry, or outside of not having any family involved with it, not knowing much about it, I took an entry-level job and just grew through. I didn't realize that world existed, and I just started learning, and that's what's cool about it. And that's what's cool about the exposure. And we'll get into this a little bit later. Like, how do we get people outside, like, family, like, interested in it, excited about our industry? And I think that just takes exposure. Let me get to the next question. Adam, you already answered this, but Brett, just for our audience, I know they answered this, but everyone else doesn't. Who within your family is still in the business?
Nobody. My mom and dad, they both are retired. 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any DNA left in our business. Any family. I mean, now I consider, obviously, all the guys and the crew that we put together over the years my extended, family. And
mm-hmm.
I always laugh. I heard somebody say it a while back, and I think there's a lot of truth to it, is your family, like your true DNA family, that, your blood, you don't get a choice, right? Like, that's just who pops out beside you, or, your aunts, uncles, or whatever. But your real family are the people you get to choose. Your friends, whoever else, you bring into the business and you bring up through the, like, so I look at it as a family business still, but really from a blood standpoint, there's no blood left in our family. It's just myself. And then obviously our team that we've hired over the years and kind of put together and to help build it.
Gotcha. Thank you. And I know you treat us like family. I feel like we're a family over here. And I think you find that, I'm sure in any business, the people that grind it out together, work together, we see each other more than our blood family. A lot of us do. So.
And Adam, I see your posts on social media. I mean, you've got your crew, your people that you take pretty damn good care of, from near as I can tell. So I would assume that there's a lot of that component for you as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I probably should be like a more social person, like at work. I don't really socialize too much, like, because with the staff here and the team, it used to be different when I first got into it. Even 10 years ago or 15 years ago, it was a smaller company. But now, like, we have 700 employees here.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to, there's a lot of new faces, a lot of new names. So I'm spending so much time just trying to, at least know everybody's names, know the faces. But I don't really socialize too much with, people outside of work, like people here outside of work very much. So it's hard. As you grow, the problem is it just becomes, I don't know how to say it, but as you grow, it changes the dynamics of the company. And sometimes you lose that family feel the bigger you get. And that's one of the things that I regret the most of the company being this size, is that family feel sort of isn't as strong as it used to be.
And it's hard. There's no doubt, as you grow the business, to keep that absolute family, family feel. I think we're around 200 employees. But I've always maintained a core group of people, a core group of people that helped build it from a 30-person company to what it is today. And those are when I think of a family business. I mean, there's people that are there just to get a paycheck, and I understand that. That's not lost on me. I get it. We go this business, this industry. There's a lot of turnover, and if anybody says that there isn't, when you start crossing that threshold of 100 employees or more, the turnover, I feel like, because you need bodies to do just some pretty labor-intensive stuff, and as much as I'd love to get the turnover down, and say that it's all about culture and it's all about family. I mean, it's not lost on me that as you grow, you can maintain that so much, but it does become kind of a monster in and of itself.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So Adam, you said you have around 700 employees now. When you took over, when you got involved into the business, how many did you have back then, roughly?
I think 25, maybe 30.
Okay. 30. And Brett, you said earlier around 30 when you took over?
Yeah, I think it seems like when I came in full-time in 2004, we had around, counting truck drivers, around that mid-20s, somewhere in there.
So where did that drive to grow the business and not just maintain it come from? Where did that desire to, is that more of trying to put your stamp on it, not being just the family business guy that got that job because of the name, or does that come from something else?
I think for me it was more just I had to grow to survive. My competition is like a Sims or no disrespect, a Schnitzer, EMR. Those are my biggest competitors, are the public guys. But for me to stay relevant and for me to be able to compete and for me to do my own ships, I had to have the volume. So a lot of it was in the beginning was just to survive. It was to grow to survive. And in the beginning I got over leveraged because of it. But once I got, the finances under control here, it's been just a steady methodical growth here.
Great. And Brett?
And no disrespect taken. We were able to buy Schnitzer out in 2016, so I know that vibe. So, for me, man, because I'm passionate about what I do, and I'm like a go hard guy, right? I don't have turtle mode. I only have rabbit. So, I don't even know how to stop or slow down if that was an option. I only know how to grow, and if you're not growing, you're dying concept. I mean, I think just like Adam said, he had to grow to survive. Mm-hmm. I think you have to always maintain that mentality of, if you're not growing, then somebody's growing around you, right? They're going to choke you out. So my goal is to try and go the other way and try and grow our business accordingly, so that maybe not necessarily we're choking other people out, but we're also making enough waves and growing our business enough that we can reach other markets and stay alive and build that ladder of opportunity for our people. Because if you're growing, now you talk about, giving other people opportunity in your business, because now you've created more steps in the ladder. You've created a manager position over here, or a district manager, or a GM, or a president, or whatever. The only way you do that is to grow your business. The only way to get good people to see upside is to see upside in the business that you're putting your money back in, and you're giving them growth opportunity as well. Or else you're not going to maintain good people. You're just going to be, on a slow death spiral. And so for me, I that's the only way I know.
But the key also to growth is you have to have the right infrastructure, or growth can be a really dangerous thing. You don't have the systems and the core group to support it. Growth can definitely work against you very quick.
100%. And to Adam's point, and we've had this conversation. This is just all full honesty for us. We're teetering on that human capital, where we're starting to red line, right? Where we're going to have to make a decision. How much more can we grow with our existing infrastructure without starting to create burnout or starting to red line real hard? or we're gonna have to recruit more people and trust more people and get more people in the fold, because I think Adam's 100% correct. I mean, you walk that fine line with growth, especially if you try and grow too fast. That, I mean, you know, there's a lot of sleepless nights on my end where I'm like, oh, okay, how the fuck are we going to solve this problem? You know, like, who can we have help do this? And so,
well, it's
that's
like,
correct.
like something your dad, Rod, who's in our audience listening, he told you, Brett, I think when you kind of took over, you're like, oh, I want to put a yard in Boise and maybe out towards Twin and out here. And he's like, well, who's going to run it? And you're like, I'll find someone. And like, he'd been in the business long enough, he'd realizing the people capital is the hardest part, you know. And I think that's without a doubt the hardest part, finding the people, you know.
That was always his question. He goes, that's a great idea, Brett. Great idea. Who the fuck's going to run it? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to figure that out.
And I feel you from both of you. Yeah, I think growth's awesome, but I think it can be dangerous to your whole business if you don't do it the right way.
Agree totally.
So do you guys still, I know neither of you, you know, Upstate Shredding or United Metals has anyone related to either of you, blood related, that's in the business still, but do you feel like the scrap industry in general is still a family-based business? Like, it's still kind of got that model nationwide?
I think it does, definitely. Most of the people I deal with, or most of the customers that are shredders, are still family-based businesses for sure.
Gotcha. Brett?
I tend to agree. I mean, you've got the big publicly traded companies, you know, the Sims, the Schnitzers of the world, that they, you know, that they've grown, you know, pretty big over the, you know, last, you know, few years, especially say the last 10. You know, they've kind of created these monster entities, you know, say even with Nucor buying out DJJ, and, you know, got the big brokerage house underneath the steel mills, and then they got their own set of scrap yards as well, shredder yards. I think they're getting farther away from that model, and it's sucking some people with them. But I think there's just still a big jag of our industry that's very family business oriented, or very still, not to say mom and pop shops, but a lot of, you know, still smaller business entities that are still fairly family oriented. And I feel like that's where the most potential growth is in our industry, is those facilities. If they can figure out how to dial in what their opportunities are, the big guys are always going to be there. I don't care what industry you're in, but I mean, there's nobody I enjoy competing more against than those guys, because I feel like I got a competitive advantage because I can move quicker.
Gotcha. And do you think the family business aspect of the scrap industry has helped the industry as a whole or hurt it?
I know that's a tough one to say. I mean, I've seen a lot of businesses break up because of family. But I think there's like pluses and minuses to it. But, you know, getting back to what Nick said, the public companies are not the same as they were 5 or 10 years ago. The bigger companies are getting smarter. They're getting more aggressive. They're getting more nimble. So I think, you know, on the last go around in the downturn, I think a lot of the larger public companies learned their lesson and are acting, you know, a lot more like smaller companies now.
Gotcha.
At least on these.
Yeah, fair point.
Very good. And so another thing, like I kind of brought up earlier, is finding people that want to get into the scrap industry, to do more things like in the management aspect of it, to kind of move up the chain and not just take a job. Do you feel like the lack of maybe being able to find that has kind of also been a reason the scrap industry is so family-based? Because, you know, you get the family to do it because you know they almost are obligated. And I'm not talking about your two companies. I'm talking about just in a whole. Do you feel like the lack of being able to recruit people has maybe forced the industry to be family-based?
One thing I will say, like back to Adam's previous point about, you know, when you don't, and he said, you know, I've seen a lot of businesses break up over family. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the reasons why, this is just my opinion, but I think one of the reasons why he's probably been able to grow that business is because he doesn't have a huge family to answer to, and doesn't have to appease a bunch of other people. I mean, I think he's able to make a decision and move forward with it, right, wrong, or indifferent. And I think the same goes in my position is, you know, I have a set of checks and balances with our CFO and, you know, our guys and our, you know, our core group that we kind of will run through some decisions, but there's nobody else that you're really going to have to say, okay, sister, you know, I know that we're going to put all our money back in our business this year, and you're not going to be able to go buy that new house or that new boat. Are you okay with this? Are you willing to put your money back in? Because I think this is the right move. When you don't have to have that pressure or that someone chirping in the back of your mind, where you can say, I don't give a shit, this is the right move, we're putting it back in, we're going to build this facility, or we're going to buy this piece of equipment, or we're going to do X. I think that enables you to grow without that family component where everybody has to be on the same page, right?
Gotcha. And I think that's where I could see it, and I've been fortunate enough to work with United Metals under Brett, where we don't have to deal with a lot of that family stuff that could get people that aren't in the family upset. So that's one aspect I think that could really kill your business, where a family member in that business gets special privileges, maybe gets unfair advantage versus a guy that just started outside the family. It's an aspect that I think if you had the family involved to a certain extent, where they could do whatever they wanted and couldn't even get fired, you know, because of the family aspect, I think that can just kill your morale. So that being said, you know, what are your thoughts on people outside of a family, like being able to break in and be one of the top guys in a scrap company? What are your guys' thoughts on that versus when there are family involved where they get that unfair advantage?
I mean, finding good people is that is the hardest part of this business, and getting younger people to commit to this industry.
Mm-hmm.
What I do for a job is Groundhog's Day. I mean, basically I'm doing the same thing. The technology changes, so that's part of it in the shredding business. But basically I do the same thing every single day. If I could find the right people, I'd open up 100 more scrap yards. I mean, the shredding business, after doing it so long, you have it down to pretty much a science to it. I would just keep opening up shredders. But as your dad said, it's impossible to find staff to staff these people. We are at burnout at this company here. We have people working, 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. It's a long day here, and what we're doing now is we're going to the local universities, Syracuse, Binghamton, and we're trying to recruit people, like young people that are engineers, electricians, and trying to bring them in that way right out of college.
Gotcha.
But a lot of people don't want to come in this industry, so you have to make it financially feasible for them to take a shot at our industry outside of college. So we have to overpay in the beginning to get the really quality applicants here.
And I think you could probably lump the scrap industry in with most blue-collar industries right now, whether it's the trucking side of the business or a plumber or anything that's been a blue-collar industry for a long time. I think we're not fighting a battle that a lot of these other industries aren't fighting. It's unique for us because we're in that Groundhog Day, we're in that day-to-day grind. That's the world we live in. But I deal with a lot of commercial accounts, a lot of our manufacturing customers, as I'm sure it does. Adam has probably some that he still deals with, and they're having a similar battle. Trying to find good people and trying to get people motivated to go to work every day, and realize that there's a lot of upside to. You don't have to be a college degreed engineer or some crazy degree that they're offering nowadays to be a successful person or to make good money. You just got to be kind of motivated, to learn a task and and get good at it and stick with something. So I think that more than anything, it's we're kind of just fighting that blue collar work, people capital issue that a lot of other people are fighting, and you're gonna have to overpay some people to get them in the door and realize that it is a cool, unique industry, or you're gonna have to take some chances on some people that have maybe a little bit more of a sketchy past, but they want to redeem themselves. I think that there's multiple different avenues to try and find people, but to say it's not getting fucking hard would be a lie, because it's getting harder and harder every day.
Yeah, 5 years ago, we were paying a mechanic $25 an hour. If you look at the post I just did, for a solid mechanic, we're paying on the East Coast $45 an hour now.
Yeah. And is that like a degree, do you have to have,
No.
When you talk about, that's just get it. If you got any, good diesel background, any mechanical background, then let's talk type of, wage.
Yes, it's just like with truck drivers. Trucking, I think 5 years ago, we're probably $16, $17 an hour for trucking. Now we're $25 an hour to start because, we're running almost 240 trucks now. And to keep people, a truck driver, they're such in demand that, they can get a sign-on bonus somewhere else the next day. They have people knocking on their doors. So we have to pay a wage that, one, attracts a good quality driver, but also you have to pay them enough that they stay also.
Yeah, which, your East Coast wages, even versus our wages over here, that's pretty steep. But just the difference, like you said, in 5 years, and I don't know what to attribute that to. Obviously, inflation, but also just back to that good old human capital. Where do you get the people? Most people, if you want a good one, you're probably taking them from somebody else. It's not like they're just, coming out of school ready to rip all the time.
Truck driver is true. If they're not working right now, there's usually an issue.
Correct.
Even general laborers here, $17 an hour to start.
Yeah, we had to bump to 15 just to get them in the door.
Yep, and our cost of living here in Idaho has just gone up so much in the last year. So just so people can have a livable wage too, so they can be happy and be functional, So it's hard to keep up. And I didn't read it. I saw Dave Ranke from MZ, they posted something about kind of aspect of how high the wage needs to be right now, and some companies can't manage it. Some smaller companies can't make it happen. So it's putting some real small companies in a real big bind right now till everything kind of catches and levels back out with each other,
For sure.
Well, is there anything that you two would like to add, get into before we open it up for questions?
No.
Brett?
No, I just wanted to say I appreciate everybody coming out and taking a listen, and I think that this Clubhouse app can be great for a lot of industries. I think it can be great for ours, and just connecting people, talking to people, helping each other out, giving advice where you can, and just that's what makes that's what I love about our industry is our ability to communicate and help each other. So I think that was the whole reason behind getting this set up was, I don't know everything. Obviously, I ain't the brightest crayon in the box, but I've been around the scrap business for a few years, and if there's something I can do to help or a question I can ask, I just want people to know I'm available. I'm here to help if I can.
Yeah, and the reason we started doing this is just bring all the scrap guys and gals together to chat about issues, to kind of have a spot where we can all meet every Friday. I know everybody's busy, so if you can make it, check us out. We try to do this every Friday, and we'll keep doing it. And I do have a few questions out there. I'm going to pull Mike up to ask a question.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's
Trying to figure
okay.
out this app. Well, earlier I was just going to chime in. Nobody's talking about the Beavers
Are we
and their brackets.
Are we talking basketball again?
Yeah, we're back to basketball now. That was my earlier question. No, I just wanted to thank you guys for having this. Well, it's not a podcast, whatever it is now. A little clubhouse chat. It's nice to be amongst people of a similar background. As you know, my brother and I have our own family business here in Portland and kind of going through the same struggles that everyone else is on a little bit smaller scale.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for joining, Mike. And like I said, man, I know this was your first time, but like check us out every Friday. And, you know, I got your number. You got my number. We can collaborate and kind of see what topics we want to talk about every week. Okay?
Sure. Sounds good.
Thank you. And I got another one here. Okay, Josh. There you go. Hey, Josh, what's your question?
First of all, thank you guys for putting this on. Great call. Very informative. This question's for Adam. I know we talked about this a little bit in the past, but when you're hiring drivers currently, because I know you just grew your fleet, you know, pretty massively, and you're taking them from other companies, you know, what do you think is the reason they are choosing to come to your company? Is it being home every night, or what are the reasons?
I mean, it's a little bit of everything. We stress, you know, you're home at night. You're not having to lug produce. You know, up here, there's a lot of places like CVS warehouses, Amazon, Walmart. So we're saying that you don't have to move the freight yourself. Home at night is big. And we also try to cater to the spouse, too. You know, we're trying to be very family friendly when it comes to truck drivers. With the fleet that we just bought, none of our trucks are over 3 years old here. So get the younger driver. In the days of Instagram, we made sure like we chromed out the trucks. You know, it's probably a couple $1,000 more expense, but you want to give these younger drivers, you know, something that they can show off and take pictures of. And that's how we've been able to get other drivers is, you know, make the trucks so they're really proud about what they're driving. And at the same time, you have to pay a wage that is going to keep them here. But also we do, like on Samsara, which is our software, I can send a message to all my drivers all at once. Once in a while, I'll do a sign-on bonus. I'll tell a driver if they refer another driver and they stay here for, say, 60 days, we'll give that driver $1,000. And that's the biggest way we've been able to get drivers is to do a cash referral program with the drivers that we already have here, because they're talking to the other drivers when they're out. They're socializing with the other drivers, and that's the best way we've been able to get drivers.
Wonderful. Great answer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. Thanks, Josh.
Hey, if I could just chime in, what was the dispatch software that both Brett and Adam use?
We use Samsara here.
Samsara.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions to anybody here, and I'm sure I'm speaking, I don't want to speak for Brett or Nick, but I'm sure they're the same. Anybody wants to message me at any time, you can find me on social media, or you can, hit my cell number here or call the business. Anytime after this podcast, if you think of something, not podcast, not Clubhouse, if you think of something, I'm always available to help out anybody in the industry at any time.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, same here. Well, you brought up Adam chroming out the trucks. That's one thing that's been big. And Brett can elaborate more on this. On our hauling department, Barry and the hauling department does a great job just making some badass looking trucks. And we get comments all the time. And I think that is an aspect that never really seemed relevant to me until I start talking to more and more people.
But
I got that. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, but it's true because when I see your guys' LinkedIn, the thing that always catches my eye is your fleet. Your fleet's always sharp, always looks good.
Yep.
And I think that's first what attracted me to your company was I saw these cool truck pictures that you guys posted. So if I was a driver, I'd be like, I want to drive that truck. I want to work there. They care about their fleet. And I think what you're doing is a big positive.
Yeah.
That came from my dad. That's a Rod Ekart. My dad and I used to fight about trucks. That was our big, we used to fight about trucks. Probably more than anything we ever fought about was why are we spending so much goddamn money on trucks? And really it came down to, he's like, you want to have drivers? He goes, he's kind of the one that kind of lamented that into my brain, was if you want to have truck drivers and you want to have a full fleet, then you better have nice trucks, and you better take pride in your trucks, and you better figure out what you got to do to get them in the seat. And if you give them a nice truck, if you give them a nice piece of equipment, more than likely they're going to take care of it too. So now you get the double win, right? Someone that's proud of it, they want to wash it, they want to take care of it. Now when your truck rolls in to a customer or to a vendor or whatever, that shit looks sharp, it looks nice. And it took me, I ain't gonna lie, it probably took me 7 years to get over that hump. I'm a slow learner, and that still took me that long before I'm like, okay, I finally get it, but that's the truth. And when you say you spent a couple extra $1,000 on chrome, it's probably the best couple $1,000 you spent, because that's gonna, at least gives you a crack at the next driver, which if you want to be able to move material in our business. And that's something that we could probably touch on real quick. It kind of leads me down that road, is our business is built on transportation. If you want to move scrap, whether it's inbound or outbound, your ability to control your transportation and control your transportation costs are what's going to be your big differentiator, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think transportation has ever been more important than now. There's no independence for hauling scrap anymore. They can find other loads that are easier on their equipment, salt, aggregate, other things like that to haul. So what you're doing, is smart, because you have to be in control of your own transportation. You cannot rely on outside. The days of relying on outside trucking are gone. We're basically a big trucking company that does scrap.
Exactly. 100%. Now that's a good analogy, is you're in the transportation and really you're in the customer service business. And how do you service your customer? Transportation. You're there to pick it up, whether you're receiving inbound roll-offs, bins, trailers. That's customer service. But customer service in our industry revolves around transportation. And you're just a big ass customer service transportation business that happens to be in scrap.
Yeah, and where it also helps, like owning your own trucks, is like the market's going to drop, middle of the week on the 1st. The mills are going to cancel the orders. But having my own trucks, I can shove it down the mill's throat.
Yeah.
They'll save that order. But if I was relying on outside transportation, most likely 50% would show up, maybe.
Oh yeah, and now you're relying on outside trucks. So everybody else and their dog's trying to save that mill cell too, right? So now you're paying more to move that scrap. So really, what are you saving, or what are you gaining by outsourcing that, or insourcing or whatever? I've always said our trucks make us money that nobody sees on paper, right? So if you have the ability to move your material, just like you alluded to, Adam, when the market's going down and you can really fill your order or cram the material in, nobody sees that line. That doesn't go to the transportation company. It goes against the scrap books, because we run a set of books for our trucks. We run a set of books for the scrap. So the scrap side gets all the benefit. Everybody looks like a hero on the scrap side, but it's really the trucks that enable it to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, I'm going to pull someone up to ask another question. 1 second. All right, this is Andy. He's one of our loyal clubhouse guys. Jump up there, Andy.
Hey, Brett and Adam, I just wanted to say I appreciate y'all doing this. It's been very informative. 2 questions that I have related to transportation. Number 1, are you running your transportation department? Brett, you spoke of 2 different books. Do you run those as 2 separate companies? And then my second question would be, on your material, if you're advertising that your drivers are home each night, I assume that you're hiring out any freight that's a distance you can't deliver in the same day.
So when we were partners with Schnitzer from 97 until 2016, it was one company. When we bought out Schnitzer and became independent again, we ended up splitting off here not that long ago. We ended up splitting off the hauling side because we basically run 40-something trucks. We run a set amount of trucks that are what we call our over-the-road trucks. So these are the guys that are delivering scrap to the mills. They're delivering scrap. They're delivering it to the coast. So those guys are home every other night, and so it's its own company. And then we run, obviously all of our local trucks, which is all our end dubs, roll-off trucks, bin trucks, and so that's all operates within the Scrap United Metals side. So we do it for two reasons. One, because your trucks are probably your biggest risk that you have out there from a business standpoint. That the risks that's involved when you have the trucking side of the business, especially when you're hauling other people's material on the backhaul for us. So that's why we run two separate sets of books. Go ahead, Adam, if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, we're breaking the trucking. Our goal by the end of this year is to have 300 trucks on the road. But the accountants, exactly what you said, trucking is the biggest risk, also insurance-wise. So we're going to be breaking that off into a separate company, doing its own P&L. It'll be its own corporation on the side. And for long hauls, we don't do any of our long hauls. Anything that's long hauls going, that would require an overnight. We are subbing all that out still.
And we do sub out. We sub out. We ran it. I looked at it the other day. It depends on the month. Depends on how much non-ferrous material that I sell for the month and where it's going. If it's not within our 3-state corridor, which is Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and a little bit of Montana, then we don't haul it ourselves. A, because we don't want to license our trucks for that, and B, just because it gets us out of our wheelhouse, which our wheelhouse is scrap to the mill, scrap to the shredders, and then building materials and whatever else on the backhaul coming back into the valley. So we're pretty narrow in what we do and how we do it. So anything that's kind of an oddball shipment, that's all outsourced. So maybe we probably outsource, depends on the month, 100 to 200, outside trucks a month.
Okay, I'm going to bring up a few more people. I got 3 more questions here. All right, Nick, you're up.
Hi, again, like everybody else said, thank you for taking the time to have this chat today. I appreciate it.
For sure.
So my question, it's a 2-parter, and it's for Adam. I know that Upstate's a family business, but it really is pretty big, and I would call it medium or even a nimble large business. But how far do you want to vertically integrate, and is there one sector of this business from collection through melt that is like the crown jewel that you guys really like to focus in?
We're in the new steel business. Part of our company is in the new steel service center business. I always had this dream of, melting my own steel. I don't know actually if I have the guts to ever melt my own steel. That would be the last integration because we sell the new steel on the retail and wholesale end. So like if we sell to Nucor, we're buying back the steel from Nucor, sheet, plate, rebar, channels, beams. But I think my growth in the future is definitely going to be on the ferrous side and the shredding side. We get a lot of non-ferrous by default, just as we open up new facilities. But I'm definitely a ferrous guy, and I love the shredding business. And with the new technology, we just built a heavy media plant here, or a dry media plant here, so we can run our own Zorba here in Owego and not have to export it. But I think the future for us is with the new technology that's going to come into the scrap metal business. That's where my focus is going to be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Nice talking to you, Nick.
What about you, Brett? What's your plans? How far do you want to go?
That's a good question. sometimes my eyes are bigger than my stomach. You know, I think in a lot of times. But it's just really going to be a matter of like what opportunities open up. When the market starts to get heated up like it is right now, it's kind of when I start to pull back. I think Nick, you probably know me. You know me well as anybody, especially on this call. I don't really get too aggressive unless the market's just really starting to get sideways and get shitty. I mean, I feel like that's when I made my best deals is when everybody's running for the door. So for me, I just kind of wait and try and pick our spots. I don't have a set time or a set idea of what I'm gonna do, as much as I just kind of look for opportunities that make sense that we can like either leverage our current assets or our current facilities to grow. I'm more interested in the waste side of the business, just because it feels like there's some opportunity there that's kind of starting to present itself. But then again, you know, like I said, I'm more of an opportunity guy. I just kind of wait and sit and wait back and just kind of try and hold my cards tight until shit really starts to hit the fan, and then it feels like that's when you can make the best moves, is when, like you said, when everybody's running for the fucking door.
Yep. Timing's everything, and when you hear that expression, I think a lot of people think the timing, you know, it's just by luck. I think timing, you can control the timing too. So I think, you know, that's just, you know, part of the business plan. So, you know, I'm excited to see what Upstate Shredding does, and obviously excited to see what United Metals does in the next 20 years. Thanks for the question, Nick, and I got a couple more.
Hey, I was going to ask you guys, has anyone heard that Nucor might open up a couple mini mills in Washington?
I haven't heard that. I deal with Nucor all the time, but with this kind of market, with this kind of margins they're making, you're going to see Nucor opening up a lot of stuff for sure.
Yeah, see, Brett and I need to put a shredder in together if a Nucor opens up a mill that's closer to us.
I'm going to leave these shredders to the smart guys. I got them.
All right, I'm going to bring up, we got a new question coming in. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Well, my question was kind of related to what Nick had said. Like, if you guys ever actually consider mounting a field, that looks like, but like you guys kind of covered that. I really like what you guys said about the trucks, and I actually made a comment the other day that was kind of related to, you know, it said like, you know, it runs a lot of risk and stuff, but how the current market is looking with the lack of drivers and lack of not just drivers, but people who go with their tooling and stuff like that. One of the biggest things I learned is, you know, engaging in this business is the value of the trucks is much more than what makes it to the bank. Kind of,
I'm kind of, I can't hear you real well, man. Can you guys hear him?
It's cutting out on me.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
It's because I'm in Mexico, man. So that's probably why. I'll have to go ahead and wait on it then.
Well, hit us up. You can find us. You can find all of us easy. So hit us up.
Yeah, okay? Sounds good.
Thanks, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, though.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming.
All right, last question. How you doing, David?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for hosting the conversation, guys. I guess I'm on here. I'm the other half of Bob's over here with Mike. So, question for you both on strategic growth. Most of what I've heard in your history, and most recently in the last, 5 to 10 years, is some significant growth on both fronts. Would you say that most of that is through mergers and acquisitions, or is that an organic growth, or how have you characterized that over the years?
For us here, originally it was just, buying other companies, buying mom and pops, but going forward, most of the stuff I'm doing here is greenfields. I don't really want to take on environmental liability from other places, which is one of the biggest, that's killed more deals for me than anything was, success reliability with, I'm working on a deal right now buying another shredding company, and the holdup is the environmental. So most of it now, I'm just looking for good property in good areas, and working with the local municipalities to be able to tell us where they would like us so we can get a permit and open up brand new facilities. For the amount of money I would be spending on an acquisition, I could be making, a really beautiful, environmentally compliant facility.
Brett?
I'm not. I err on the side of I don't buy out other companies just because the environmental part is definitely one of them, but the other side for me, we made a run at buying someone out over here in eastern-ish Idaho a while back, and we just could never get over the hump, and we spent, a year working to get over the hump, and we just ended up going and we found another piece of property, put a yard in, and basically just random competition. I think they filed bankruptcy last year. But ultimately, my thing is very opportunity driven. It's very does it make sense? Does the deal make sense? But we are definitely a brownfield or greenfield company. We go open up a yard. We look for where it makes sense, where it's underserved, or the facilities there aren't taking care of the market, and then we kind of look for a piece of property, and it takes more time, and I think that's why a lot of people don't go that route. It takes more time to go establish a new yard, build it out, find the people, and then you got a couple years easily of just generating the customer base to know that you exist and to start generating that customer flow. So I think that's why you see a lot of bigger companies, especially on the publicly traded side, is they don't want to take the time or spend the effort it takes to get that ball rolling. It's a 3 to 5 year process from start to finish. And so because I'm more time, my timeline is extended, my timeline is longer. I'm not trying to get rich quick. I'm more interested in starting a yard from scratch, my own way, creating our own systems, not having to retrain people to how to do everything our way. So I kind of err on the side of just starting one from scratch.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all our questions. Thanks for the questions from everybody. Thanks for joining us, Adam and Brett. And I'm excited to keep this thing going every Friday. So.
All right. Well, thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. All right. Have a good weekend, everybody. Good luck to your team, Adam.
Thank you, Nick.
Yep.
Thank you, Nick, for putting this together. And I appreciate everybody that dialed in. And we recorded it, so hopefully we'll put it out there for people that have Androids. So they can listen, and hopefully people glean some information from it somehow, some way.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
All right. Take care.
Bye.